The events begin at a train station called Janyang, where a group of traffic officers is sanitizing every vehicle passing by the station. When the driver asks them why they are disinfecting the cars, they tell him that there has been a chemical leak from a nearby factory. They explain that this leakage could cause a very serious epidemic among people, so they are disinfecting every vehicle passing through the area as a precautionary measure. However, the driver doesn't take it seriously and dismisses their concerns, thinking to himself that they are overreacting an epidemic. What nonsense! And continues on his way. While driving down the road, he accidentally hits a deer crossing in front of him. He gets out to check on it, only to find it lying in a pool of its blood. Assuming that the deer has died, he leaves it behind and continues on his way. As the driver moves on, the deer suddenly rises again in an eerie manner, revealing its frighteningly altered eyes. Meanwhile, a young man named Sok is in conversation with the current Minister of Environment. The minister informs Sok about the chemical leak, as he was one of the founders of the factory responsible for the incident. Sok assures him that he will take care of the problem and resolve it as soon as possible. It is revealed that Sok holds the position of the country's financial director. However, after the call, he instructs his assistant to hide any documents related to the leakage to avoid any repercussions. The assistant tries to dissuade him, warning that concealing such information poses a major risk to everyone. But Sok remains indifferent and insists that his orders be carried out without question. His behavior showcases his selfish nature, as he prioritizes his interests above all else. Later, after work, Sok receives a call from his estranged wife, who checks in on their daughter soon. He reassures her that everything is fine and that he is taking good care of their child. However, she knows his true nature all too well. She understands that his lack of communication stems from his perpetual self-absorption. This deeply affects Soon, leaving her upset and emotionally distant. His wife reminds him that their daughter's birthday is tomorrow and asks him to get her a gift, at least to show that he remembers her. He assures her that he hasn't forgotten and ends the call. That night, Sok returns home and asks his mother about Soon. She tells him that she has already had dinner and gone to bed. Sok then goes to his daughter's room and finds her talking to her mother on the phone. As he listens, he hears Soon telling her mother that she plans to wake up early, take the train alone, and come to see her. Feeling lonely and neglected by her father, Soon longs for companionship. Sok, realizing how his actions have affected his daughter, attempts to comfort her. He then takes out her birthday gift and hands it to her. However, when Soon opens the gift, she finds that it is the same present he gave her last year. This only deepens her disappointment, as it proves to her that he consistently forgets about her. Sok tries to make up for his mistake and apologizes to Soon. He tells her to ask for anything she wants, and he will do it to make amends. She tells him she wants to go to Busan to see her mother. Despite how difficult this decision is for Sok, he ultimately agrees for his daughter's sake. The next day, Sok gets ready and takes Soon to the train station that will transport them to Busan. On their way, he notices something unusual. The streets are filled with police cars, ambulances, and fire trucks. Yet, he chooses to ignore it and continues toward the station. Upon arrival, Sok receives a call from his assistant, who informs him that numerous reports are surfacing about strange illnesses and deaths. The assistant strongly believes that the factory's chemical leak is behind the spread of these diseases, warning Sok that anyone who passes by the factory is at risk of infection. However, Sok remains indifferent and dismisses the concern, unwilling to acknowledge the danger. Sok tells his assistant that he will return to the office within a day or two, and will look into everything himself. Just moments before the train departs, a girl in a strange state enters, unnoticed by the other passengers. As soon as the train starts moving, mysterious creature attacks a worker at the station. Soon, witnesses the incident, but since her father is asleep, she hesitates to wake him. Meanwhile, the girl who boarded the train is seen tying up her leg, revealing that she is infected with the disease. The assistant warns Sok about. A little while later, one of the passengers reports to the train attendant that someone is acting strangely on board. At the same time, Soon gets up to go to the restroom. When the attendant and others approach the man in question, They find him repeatedly muttering eerie phrases. Everyone will die. The epidemic will spread. Chaos will be everywhere. They dismiss him as insane and pay no further attention to his words. Soon, however, goes to a different restroom where she encounters a man named Sang. Sang asks Soon to use a different restroom because his pregnant wife is inside and still needs some time. Meanwhile, the train attendant walks down the corridor and notices a girl collapsed on the floor. As she approaches to check on her, the girl suddenly rises and bites her on the neck. It's the infected passenger who had boarded just before. Departure. At that moment, Sok wakes up and realizes Soon is no longer by his side. He checks the news and sees reports about an outbreak turning people into something resembling zombies. Chaos is spreading everywhere. Alarmed, he rushes to find Soon. As Sok moves through the train, he notices people frantically running, but he doesn't understand what's happening. The infected girl who bit the attendant has transmitted the virus, causing the attendant to turn into one of the creatures. The infection spreads rapidly, turning passengers into terrifying monsters. Amid the escalating horror, Sok fears that his daughter might have been infected too, but suddenly, he hears Soon calling out to him as she emerges from the restroom. Without hesitation, he picks her up and runs. Sang is still standing in front of the bathroom, waiting for his wife. When his wife, Song, steps out, she finds people frantically running toward them. One of the infected tries to attack Sang, but Sang, like a raging bull, manages to grab him, strike him, and lock him in the bathroom. He takes Song and runs, desperate to escape with his life. The train splits into two parts, one safe, one infected with the zombie plague. The infected relentlessly attempt to take over the safe section. The zombies begin pounding on the door, separating them from the uninfected passengers, trying to break through. Everyone is terrified. Kim notices that the zombies only attack what they can see. The survivors begin covering the door with papers to block their view. The train conductor informs them that they cannot stop at the next station because it's overrun with zombies, and if they do, everyone will be wiped out. A stubborn man argues with the conductor, insisting that the train must stop so he can get off, but the conductor ignores him and continues the journey. A little while later, Kim receives a call from his mother, who is checking on him and his son. Kim immediately notices something off about her voice. It sounds unnatural. He realizes that she has been infected, and his heart sinks with grief. Officials instructed him to stop at Daejeon Station to drop off the passengers, promising that the military would handle their protection. But as Kim listens closely, he overhears a man named Suk speaking on the phone. He is talking to a government official who informs him that Daejeon Station is not safe for them. The only secure station now is Busan. However, the officials instructed the train conductor to drop off the passengers at Daejeon because there isn't enough space for all these people elsewhere. They tell him that if he plans to come to Busan, he should do so alone or bring only 2 or 3 others at most. Later, it is revealed that Suk is responsible for one of the state storage facilities, which explains why he has strong connections. Kim wants to verify Suk's information, so he decides to call his friend, a police captain. The captain confirms that the military is indeed present in Daejeon, but most of the soldiers have already been infected by the virus. He warns Kim that, when the train stops, he should avoid the main exit and instead leave through the northern gate of the station. Kim thanks him and hangs up the call. After the conversation, it turns out that Park was sitting nearby and overheard everything. Park keeps mumbling that everyone is already dead and that no one will survive. Suk, however, pays him no attention and walks away. When they finally arrive at the station, it is eerily silent. There isn't a single soul in sight. The train comes to a stop, and the passengers begin disembarking one by one. Yun waits until everyone has stepped off before rushing to the train conductor, urging him to leave immediately and head toward Busan. He warns the conductor that the infection has spread throughout the city, and the government has placed it under quarantine for the infected. Yun explains that if they remain here any longer, they will all turn and perish. Realizing the danger, the conductor quickly moves to call the passengers back so they can leave. Bon, however, is deeply frustrated. He doesn't want anyone else to survive and make it to Busan. As the passengers exit the station, they instinctively head toward the main gate. but Suk takes Soon and follows the captain's advice, heading toward the northern exit instead. Park, who overheard the conversation earlier, quietly follows them. Soon starts to understand that the main gate is not a safe route for the others. Suk's selfishness frustrates her. He didn't warn the other passengers and only thought of himself. Tears well up in her eyes as she tells him that his self-centeredness was the very reason her mother left and separated from them. Her words hit Suk deeply, stirring guilt within him. Determined to make things right, he rushes to warn the others, but by then, they have already reached the main gate. There, they find soldiers, but to their horror, all of them have turned into zombies. The undead swarm the passengers, attacking and infecting them one by one. Sang manages to grab Song, and they flee. The entire station is soon overrun by zombies. One of the zombies lunges at Soon, ready to bite her, but at the last possible moment, Sang intervenes, saving her just in time. Song quickly grabs Soon and rushes toward the train. Chaos erupts as the number of infected surges, spreading like wildfire. Sang, Suk, and the athletic team struggle to hold off the zombies for as long as possible, buying time for the remaining passengers to board the train. However, Yun deceives the conductor, urging him to leave immediately, claiming that the others have already been bitten. The conductor takes his advice and departs, leaving Suk and Sang behind. Realizing the train is leaving, they sprint toward it, desperate to catch up. Zombies swarm the station, surrounding them from all directions. Tragically, as they run, the athletic team is overwhelmed and bitten except for Young. At the last moment, Suk, Sang, and Young manage to jump onto the moving train. However, they end up in a carriage far from where the other passengers are. Song calls them, telling them that she and Soon are trapped in the bathroom of carriage 13 because of the zombies. Meanwhile, Young's girlfriend contacts him and informs him that the rest of the passengers are in carriage 15. The three of them realize they are currently in carriage 9, with zombies occupying the carriages ahead. Determined to rescue Song and Soon, they begin preparing to fight their way to carriage 13 and escort them safely to carriage 15. Luckily, the number of zombies in the first carriage is relatively small, allowing them to pass through with ease. In the second carriage, Young's friends are there and he hesitates to strike them. Then Sang intervenes with Suk, and they start fighting. The train passes through a dark tunnel, causing the mutants to move away from it. Quickly, they all run to the next carriage. Suk deduces that the mutants cannot see in the darkness, which is why they kept their distance in the tunnel. In the next carriage, Sang throws them his phone and waits for the train to pass through another tunnel before calling it. As the mutants rush toward the ringing phone, the group manages to slip past them easily. They go to check on Sun and Song, then hide in the restroom opposite them before the mutants spot them. Their new goal now is to reach the other passengers. In carriage number 15, Siak informs them that the upcoming tunnel will be long and will darken the train for 2 minutes. Young calls his girlfriend to reassure her that they are in the adjacent carriage and will reach her soon. Excited after the call, she tells the other passengers that her boyfriend is on his way with the missing people. However, Yun, the vile one, steps in and tells her they will not allow anyone else to enter the carriage, fearing they might be infected. At that moment, the train enters the tunnel. Siak and the others start moving from the luggage area of the train, as the zombies are numerous and blocking the way. They all manage to get past, except for Park, whose foot slips at the last moment. Alerting the mutants, Kim rushes to help him, but suddenly the tunnel ends and the train lights up again, forcing them to try and hide. Unfortunately, the mutants spot them, and both start running as fast as they can to avoid being bitten. Sang struggles to hold the mutants back until Siak opens the door to the carriage, where the other passengers are, but the vile Yun grabs Young's girlfriend to silence her and firmly locks the door to prevent them from entering. Tragically, Sang is bitten by the zombies while holding the door. In deep sorrow, he bids farewell to Song and asks Siak to take her and run before it's too late, and he transforms as well. Song is devastated by the loss of her beloved, who was infected and turned. At the last moment, Siak and Young manage to open the door to the main carriage. However, they tragically lose Sang and an elderly woman who was with them. Overcome with anger, Seok confronts Yun, blaming him for not allowing them in earlier, which led to Sang being bitten. Yun, in turn, stands up and convinces the other passengers that Seok and the group might be infected. He urges them to isolate them to prevent further contamination. Unfortunately, the passengers believe him and demand that Seok and the others move to a separate carriage. Young's girlfriend follows him to the carriage, where he will stay. After they leave, the elderly woman notices her sister, who was infected due to Yun's actions. Driven by grief and vengeance, she opens the door to the mutants, allowing them to enter and kill Yun and his allies. Suddenly, the train stops. The conductor informs them that the railway ahead is destroyed due to the zombies, making it impossible to proceed. He quickly gets off the train to search for another one to transport the passengers. However, every train he opens is filled with mutants. Finally, he finds an empty train and takes it, urging the passengers to disembark quickly so they can head to Busan. It turns out that Yun and his treacherous ally had hidden, making them the only ones who survived when the elderly woman opened the door to the zombies. In a cowardly move, Yun throws his accomplice to the zombies to distract them, allowing himself to escape to the second train. As everyone disembarks from the first train, suddenly another train comes speeding in from a distance and crashes into the station. This incident splits them into two groups. Yun tries to escape from a mutant chasing him. He runs toward the carriage where Young and his girlfriend are and, in a desperate move, throws Young's girlfriend toward the zombies to save himself, before rushing to the next train carriage. Tragically, Young's girlfriend transforms, and, despite everything, he refuses to leave her, leading to him being bitten as well. Both of them turn due to Yun's selfish actions. Yun continues running with the mutants in pursuit. The train conductor attempts to help him before he gets bitten, but Yun cruelly pushes him toward the mutants and flees, leaving him behind. Meanwhile, Seok takes Sun and Song and rushes to catch the intact train heading to Busan. At the last moment, they manage to board, escaping the overwhelming swarm of mutants. However, Seok suddenly notices that someone is inside the conductor's cabin. When Seok reaches the conductor's cabin, he finds Yun, who has already been bitten and is now transforming into a zombie. Even in his monstrous state, Yun cruelly ignores Seok and tries to bite the little girl. In an act of self-sacrifice, Seok forces Yun to bite his hand instead, protecting Sun and Song. He then chains himself up to prevent falling and throws Yun off the moving train. However, he realizes that he has been infected. With a heavy heart, he places his daughter and Song inside the conductor's cabin, teaching them how to stop the train when they reach Busan. He locks the door behind them and bids his daughter a sorrowful farewell. Sun is overcome with grief and bursts into tears. Seok walks to the end of the train, reflecting on memories of his daughter from the moment she was born. Smiling through the sadness, he throws himself off the train before he fully transforms, ensuring he does not harm them. The Sun wept uncontrollably for her father. Tragically, Seek's journey comes to an end. A short while later, the train arrives at Busan station. Song stops the train and takes Sun as they disembark to enter the city. The military has secured the station thoroughly. They check Sun and Song's safety and allow them to enter the city peacefully. And that's how the movie ends. If you've made it this far, don't forget to drop an emoji in the comments or any emoji you like. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel to catch all our latest uploads. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.